Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving into a really fascinating story today. It's about persistence, incredible discipline, and a pretty stunning career evolution.
Absolutely. We're looking at a highly successful UI UX designer. She's right in the thick of it in New York City's product design world. And this is based on an interview Chelsea did recently.
Right, and what's striking is the contrast. I mean, her journey starts miles away from tech hubs that begins in, well, the super traditional, really demanding world of Chinese art schools. We're talking the Yikao, that big National Art College entrance exam.
Yeah, it's a huge geographical leap, but also kind of a philosophical one, too. So our mission here is to really dissect how that foundational training, that almost extreme level of practice, how that actually translates into designing complex digital platforms today. It's quite the path.
Exactly. And for you, the listener, this deep dive is sort of a roadmap. It shows how real rigor, focused effort, and handling intense pressure. Those are skills you can take anywhere. We want to get under the hood, understand the discipline that lets someone go from mastering plaster casts.
Like literal sculptures.
Yeah, to mapping out user flows for, say, multi-million-dollar ad platforms.
It's really a story about the portability of mental toughness, isn't it? It's like a seamless translation of disciplined creativity, taking that skill set honed on paper with paint, maybe static book layouts, and applying it to responsive pixels, to the kind of iteration you need in modern tech.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. The foundation, the sheer intensity, just to get into a top school like the China Academy of Art. Our source described her high school art prep in Hangzhou as completely split.
Split is, maybe putting it mildly, mornings. Okay, those were for the cultural courses, the Wenke, liberal arts type stuff. But the real focus, the heart of it, was the art prep. We're talking the entire afternoon, then the evening, and the whole weekend.
Wow.
Yeah, just dedicated purely to drawing. For 3 straight years, that was like the center of gravity for her, all aimed at passing those national art exams.
And the details of that training, I mean, this is where you see how it builds that rigor. Take the Yikao prep. For design students, a big focus was drawing plaster casts. Those sculptures they use for teaching.
Right. And she mentioned there were 10 specific casts they had to master. 10. And the practice was so intense, so relentless, she actually got to the point where she could draw every single one from every possible angle, totally from memory. They call it moji.
From memory.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. It's not just copying what you see. It's like internalizing the 3D form, the light, the shadow, until you can just reproduce it instantly.
That level of, structural recall is kind of nuts.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just about drawing realistically, right? She mentioned the color exams, too.
Oh, yeah, the color exams. Get this. Students would get a verbal prompt, something like, paint 5 pairs, 1 base, and a white cloth. And they had to paint that scene entirely from imagination. No still life set up in front of them.
Fiercely, just from the word.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they had to instantly pull up mental images, but also apply all the theory light, shadow, texture, color mixing, all under pressure.
Yeah.
It really forces you beyond just observation. It makes you think structurally, apply concepts on the fly.
And clearly, that discipline works. She scored national 8th place in the art exam for graphic design. That's really impressive.
It is hugely competitive field.
But here's a question that pops into my head. Doesn't that kind of training, drawing by rote memory, mastering the exact angle of a cast, doesn't that risk kind of stifling real creativity?
Yeah.
How do you jump from that to genuine UI UX innovation?
That's a great question, and I think it gets to the core of it. It's maybe less about stifling creativity and more about mastering the language of constraints. She actually pointed out that this idea that art students just pick art because they're bad at academics, that's mostly a stereotype. She and her peers, they genuinely loved drawing, loved creating. That passion sustained them. But the Yikao discipline, it teaches you to execute, to iterate perfectly, but within very specific rules. And honestly, that's exactly what product design often demands. You're not always designing for pure artistic freedom. You're designing within the constraints.
Okay. That reframes it.
Okay.
It's like learning a very strict grammar before you write poetry. So it's a foundation in applied constraints, not just drawing ability.
Precisely.
All right. So she takes that discipline to the China Academy of Art. Focuses on graphic design, Ping Mian Shi Ji. Her early coursework, this is around 2007, sounds very traditional. Brand design, logos, book, and magazine layouts.
Yep. Classic graphic design curriculum for the time. And she did really well, consistently got the first-class scholarship. But then the industry starts shifting under her feet. This is the first big pivot.
She literally watched the design world change. She even used the phrase, the magazine is dead. That really hit home for her. The whole field started moving away from print, from fixed media towards digital
Yeah.
and web design apps.
Which naturally led towards UI UX. And we should maybe pause on how tricky that pivot is, going from print to digital. In traditional graphic design, you've got a fixed canvas, right? Fixed ink, paper size.
Right. What you see is what you get.
Exactly. But digital design, suddenly you're dealing with responsive layouts, dynamic interfaces. The design has to work on phones, tablets, desktops. It has to react to what the user does. It's a totally different way of thinking. Much more about systems and flow, not just the final look.
Okay, so let's define her current role more clearly for you listening. She's a product designer now in NYC. That role often combines UI, the user interface, what it looks like,
The visual part, the feel.
and the UX, the user experience, how it works, the flow, the function. And she works for a company with an enterprise ad trading platform. So this isn't like designing a fun social media app.
No, this is crucial context. Enterprise software, B2B stuff, especially something like ad trading, it demands extreme functional clarity. Think about it. Interfaces crammed with data, complex workflows where professionals are making high-stakes decisions really fast.
Yeah, if the design is confusing.
People lose money, or the whole trade fails. The stakes are high.
So her main job is designing that whole linkage, the user flow, making sure a user can easily do their task, see the data, check prices, select options, click execute, all smoothly, even with all that complexity underneath.
And this is where you see the translation complete. That same disciplined, iterative focus she used on plaster casts, now it's applied to structuring product flows. She manages constraints, system limits, data feeds, client requests to get a precise functional outcome.
So that foundational rigor is key.
Absolutely. It's what lets her handle the cognitive load of these really complex systems.
And she's been building this expertise for, what, about 9 years since grad school?
Yeah, climbing that typical career ladder, junior designer, senior, heading towards potentially director or manager roles.
Standard progression.
Pretty standard now, yeah. But before she got on that stable path, she actually upped the difficulty level again. She decided to go abroad. Her reason, simply just wanted to see the world.
So she ends up choosing Pratt in New York for her master's. She looked at SVA too, other good U.S. schools. And she made this interesting comparison. Undergrad was like a misery of deep immersion, spending maybe 3 months just perfecting illustration. Slow burn.
Right.
But grad school,
That.
that was a different kind of misery. It was sheer mental whiplash, constant rapid switching.
And she chose to make it harder. She intentionally compressed Pratt's standard 3-year master's program into just 2 years. Studied right through the summer, which meant basically a nonstop, incredibly stressful schedule.
Wow. Okay, so imagine that pace. She said Monday might be painting class, Tuesday branding, Wednesday web design.
Yeah, constantly shifting gears, different disciplines, different methods, different deliverables, day after day, with weekly deadlines hammering down.
That sounds exhausting.
And on top of the design work, remember, there were other demanding courses. Marketing, art history, lots of heavy academic reading and writing.
Right. And the language barrier on top of all that.
Huge factor. She mentioned something that really stuck with me. A writing task that might take an afternoon in Chinese could stretch into 2 grueling days in English. Yeah, that constant cycle of extra effort, the stress, it really started to pile up.
And it was during that intense period, juggling everything, that she really had to confront this question. What is the difference between being an artist and being a designer?
Exactly. That pressure kind of forced a moment of clarity, a philosophical realization.
Yeah, she talked about being a kid, loving creation just for itself, like designing her bookcase into a little stage.
Pure intrinsic joy, right? That's the artist's impulse.
But she realized the designer's world is fundamentally different. It's client-focused.
This is such a key distinction. For anyone in a creative field commercially, you need to get this. If the client doesn't like the design, guess what? You change it. You adapt.
Even if you think their taste is questionable.
Even then, your personal vision often has to take a backseat to solving the client's problem, meeting their needs.
So the takeaway is, an artist creates to please themselves, mostly. A designer uses discipline to solve someone else's problem, sometimes sacrificing taste.
Right. And crucially, she found she could still find satisfaction in that process, even with the compromises. Making something that looks good, that works well, even within those constraints, that still brought a sense of accomplishment.
That's important.
Yeah, she felt she couldn't have stayed on this path if she didn't genuinely enjoy the core act of designing, regardless of the client feedback loop.
She also shares some advice she'd give her younger self. Back in high school, facing all that intense art prep, the uncertainty, if she could go back, she'd just tell that kid, everything you put in will have a return. Don't overthink it. Just work hard.
Wow. Simple but powerful. Just trust the process.
Exactly. And that ties into her overall philosophy now. She mentioned two phrases. Live in the moment. 互在当下. And always make sure your efforts are applied with a clear conscience when you okay.
Kind of like putting in honest work, being able to stand by your effort.
Yeah. She believes that approach leads to a steady path forward, fewer regrets, no matter what twists and turns your career takes.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. This journey, right? From memorizing plaster casts back in Hangzhou,
10 of them.
10 of them, to designing these complex financial flows in New York City. It's such a clear lesson. Technical skill, mental discipline, these things are incredibly transferable across art, across tech, across huge career shifts.
The mechanism really seems to be the focus, doesn't it? It's less about the specific tool, pencil, paint, or, Figma,
Right.
and more about the intensity of that focus, the willingness to just iterate and hold yourself to really high standards.
That relentless pursuit of getting it right within whatever constraints you're given.
Yeah. So we started this deep dive asking, how does drawing for years prepare you for product management in ad tech? And the answer seems to be, it trains your brain. It trains you to meet tough deadlines, to iterate constantly within tight rules, and maybe prepares you for that professional reality of sometimes having to compromise your own vision for what the client or the project needs.
That tension is really the heart of being a successful designer, isn't it? Balancing that internal creative drive with external demands. She said it herself. Design means listening to the client, but the act of creation, the process, that still brings its own reward.
Right. And that leads us perfectly to our final thought for you, the listener. How do you balance that drive for external success, hitting the targets, pleasing the client, getting the project shipped, with that internal satisfaction that comes just from the deep, focused work itself, from the pure act of creating something?
Something to think about as you navigate your own demanding paths.